on. Oh, I think we're live, and people that are watching will have to let me know if we are live, but I think we are. So everyone, it's Friday. We're doing Coffee and Politics. I'm doing it for the first time here, so don't judge. But Jeff is at home recovering from chemo, feeling great, but still recovering. So that's why he's not here. We have a full house as always at Greenville Coffee and Politics. We have special guest with us, Becky McLaughlin, the state EC for Spartanburg County Republican Party, and we're going start. So if anyone has any questions, you can message me on my cell phone or on Facebook if there's anything anyone would like to talk about. But I think we're going to start. I'm looking around. Do we have any new guests today? I don't think so. It's all the regulars. So we probably going to start with going over our convention.
Why don't we start with Friday night?
Okay.
Because
yes. So Friday night was the
credentialing
Becky
committee.
Can take over.
Credentialing committee. And since Spartanburg flipped establishment out, America First in, we had to recommend somebody for the credentialing committee. So I don't even know what credentialing committee is, except it's how you check people into the convention, because I helped with Greenville. And so I thought, well, that's easy. I'll just call a few people. And I called a few people. And this one couldn't go Friday night because she had a date. That's kind of a good thing. Another one couldn't go Friday night because she has chickens, which is, listen, that's a big thing in Spartanburg, just so you know.
It is in Greenville too.
All right, so she had chickens, and another one couldn't go because she was in a carpool. So I went, I'm tired of calling people, I'll do it myself. So we went down, Doug and I went down on Friday night, and the meeting was at 5:30, which I thought was a little odd because the reception that cost $20 was starting at 6 o'clock, and this credentialing meeting that was going to have a credentialing person from every county was starting at 5:30. I thought, well, it's going to be quick and easy and we'll be out of there. Except that I was getting emails and text messages about challenges. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know how we're going to be out of there in 30 minutes if there are challenges. Well, we weren't out of there in 30 minutes. We were out of there in 3 hours. Wow. So, and I'll just tell you what it looked like, because it didn't look like credentialing. If any of you, well, whether you sat at the table at Greenville, or whether you just came through the line and you've been through credentialing to get into a convention a gazillion times, it wasn't, we were being instructed, but the actual credentialing part is just, you show me your ID, I know who you are, I check your name off, you've paid, I hand you the envelope and your badge and you're in. There's really nothing to learn. It's not that hard. So, but for me, being a newcomer, it was an interesting.
With that camera.
No, you're good.
Am I good? Okay, I'm real good. It was such a new experience because of what I know, and especially because of what I know I don't know. And so when we walk in the room, you've been to the convention hall, and you know, even the big hotels, they open the doors and suddenly you've got a double-sized room, and we had 44 people in it. And since we're anticipating the credentialing for the next day, we're simply going to have a meeting about these challenges, except that we were seated around the edge of this big double room. Now, I can't hear anyway. I thought, how am I going to even hear what's going on? And everybody had a sign up over their head, and I'm going to tell on you, because here sit my Spartanburg friends. We call them George and Martha Washington because, you know, they're George and Martha from Washington. So when and this is jumping ahead, well, George comes up, and Doug and I are sitting there, and George comes up with a bumper sticker. And he was going to put this bumper sticker on that says "Drain the Swamp." Now, keep in mind, we're right in the middle of the swamp. And,
I got the sticker from here.
so there you know.
On
And I've got
purpose.
Richland on one side and Salute on the other side, which is, anyway, so Doug and George put this "Drain the Swamp in Columbia" sticker on the table, and George decides that's not good enough. Nobody can see it because they're walking up. He wants it up there. So here's the sign that says Spartanburg, and Doug and George stick this thing up there. Spartanburg, drain the swamp in Columbia. So
Thank you.
Seems like he was there was more than one sticker involved, because when I was around the building, it was like scavenger hunt. There were these stickers popping up in weird places. I had no idea where they come from, but
he has a way of doing things like that, putting things in weird places. And since we live kind of close to each other, we were driving home one day. See, I'm just rambling all over, but I will
That's
get
good.
back to the real story. But I knew George had been here. And so we can take the Abner Creek Way home if we don't want to go the windy road. And there's these signs out there. There are Trump signs, Trump signs, Trump signs. And I said to my husband, I know who put those signs up. And he said, who? I said, George Hayden. He went, because you should see this road, this skinny little windy road through the woods. I can just see George out there sticking the Trump sign out. But anyway, get it. So back to the convention hall. It's a giant double-sized room, and there are 40-some people set around all the perimeter and the sign over your head. And so we're getting instructions about how to credential, which was the easy part. We finished that pretty quickly. We probably could have all gone to the reception, except nobody was planning on going to the reception. And we started with the challenges. And the challenges is, I don't know if everybody got the challenges, everybody that was going to the convention was aware of the challenges, or whether it was just those of us on the credentialing committee. But you heard the challenges once we got in the convention. How many people were at the convention? They're here. Okay. About maybe half of you. All right. So the challenges came from Charleston County, Darlington County, and Pickens County. Now, right away, think about that and think about America First versus establishment. Charleston County last cycle, 2 years ago, with 70 delegates, delivered 60 for America First. This time, 0 for America First, because they lost everything in their county convention. So I knew that because I read about it, and I knew that because I read the Signal Channel and everybody was going crazy with it. The second one was, and I'll go back and review what happened and how the ruling went. The second one was Darlington County, and that was Barbara Arthur, who was appealing the decision not to seat her. And then the third one, which is the one that has made a lot of people upset and attracted a lot of media, was Pickens. And so I've got the documents. I'm not going to read them all. I'm going to just kind of summarize. So Charleston, basically, and I'm going to refer to my notes because I made copies and I don't want to say something that's not true. I would never do that. The way they staged this is this big room with people around the outside, and there were 2 tables in the center. And so they invited the people in, and those people would have to talk this way and then this way and then this way just to be heard, because the room was too big. The acoustics were awful. So it was decided among the credentialers that they would come in and state their case, and then the other side would have an opportunity to state their case. They would all stay out in the lobby while it was discussed, and once the decision had been made by vote, they would come in and the decision would be read. So they each got 5 minutes. So the first ones in were Charleston, and they handed us this information. Well, these ladies were ready to talk, and they're still passing out the information that we were supposed to read. So this one was fairly short, but the ladies were all in there at the same time. And this one, in defense of their motion, was 4 pages. Well, it'd take me 5 minutes to read all of this, but we didn't get that time. They just walk in and made their case basically. And I can attest to how these things go down, because 2 years ago in Spartanburg, we were absolutely ramrodded. You walk into the convention, if you were there, you know what I mean. We're going to vote by red and green cards.
Yep.
If you're voting for this person, you're in the establishment, your green cards are right up front, and they get the greens have it. Or and then you sit down and the reds.
Voice first.
Exactly. So these ladies made their best case, and in Charleston, what happened is they didn't take a single vote. Everything was red and green. Everything was voice vote. Everything was called from the front. So you think about 2 years ago, 60 of their delegates to the state convention were America First, and this time zero.
I believe what happened, and again, this is just hearing from Charleston people, you know how at our convention there were there was a nominating committee, America First Caucus, that picked 180 people that were verified to qualify, availability, and we had there was a slate of recommended 180 people to go to the state convention. However, we had over 300 people that signed up to be in the run for state delegate. These people, we don't know whether all of them were eligible. We were not checking the record on the go. That will be, verified later. However, they still sign up. They'll pay the fees, and we had a whole ballot of over 300 people. If anyone did not agree with the slate, you still had the right to vote for your 90 people, and that is, I think, the way you do it. We have a lot of people that don't know our members, and the slate was helpful because they wouldn't know who to vote for, right? But if you knew who to vote for, you still had the right to vote for your own people. I'm told that in Charleston, they had a slate, but the remaining, whatever number of people that wanted to run, I know some of our friends, they were nowhere on any list or any ballot. Like, I don't know whether it's legal, ethical that you did not include people that sign up on the Form 1, pay the fee to be in the running for state delegates. They were nowhere to be found at the convention, in the sense of there was no ballot that I'm told. So that was definitely, they were not even considered to be voted on as far as to go to the state convention. I think that was a big deal.
So we're just hearing this argument, all 40 some people from different counties, and one of the very first things that was asserted was that the convention failed to conduct an official vote count, and there was no recording of it in the minutes as is required. When you vote, they have to record the number of votes, who wins and who loses, and what the number of votes was. None of that got recorded because they didn't count it. So what happened was the slate that Olga's talking about won, and it sent 70 establishment types to the convention. Now, these first ladies are just people like us that went to the county convention, that wanted to do the right thing, and found themselves in the losing side and went, wait a minute, we're not just going to stand here and take this. We're going to go fight for it. We're going to go. And they wrote everything up. We didn't have time to read, but they had 5 minutes total for these ladies. And they walked back out into the lobby. And then in walked 5, and I put in my notes, mafia style, probably lawyers. And they did say who's going to speak, and they ushered 4 of them out. But the one guy was slick. I don't mean to disparage lawyers at all, but
he'll tell you he's a tax lawyer.
Okay.
It's a little different.
It's numbers. Anyway, so this guy he had quite a presence about him. He could have been an actor. I don't know. But he just laid it out and said that everything they told you is incorrect. I won't say it's a lie. It's just incorrect. It's all on the video. And there sits a phone in the middle of the table. It's all on this video. It's on this video. We didn't get to see what was on the video.
And we were told that people that were at that convention, they didn't think there was a video.
No.
Again, we will probably never know.
We will never
But
know.
it's like, oh, we have a video. That's...
So as he exited, he used his 5 minutes. Of course, he was very persuasive, and he exited. And I'm thinking, because I'm a newbie and it's first time, that either we see this or we have time to read these, or there's really no point in discussing. Well, there was a point in discussing. First thing you know, I moved that we refuse the challenge. And there was a second, all those in favor, and well, whoa. And I think we did have a chance to ask questions in between. So my hand went up and I had questions to ask, but before I had a chance to ask a question, it was call the question. And I know what that means, Robert rules, that means we're going to vote before I get a chance to ask the question I want. And so it happened. And then I realized how much on the losing side I was going to be.
And then they said it was too late.
Oh, yeah.
You did.
Right. And so the vote on that, I think, was 34-6, and we lost. So I'm starting to look around to see who's going to be voting with me. Well, Pickens is out in the lobby because they've got a challenge coming up, so they didn't get a vote on anything. They're out in the lobby. Darlington out in the lobby. So we lost the first one. And I'm thinking, okay, there's 60 America First delegates that we would have had voting with us had we won the challenge.
And then when you add Pickens.
And we haven't even gotten to Pickens yet. The second one was Darlington, and it was Barbara Arthur all by herself. And she came in and made basically the same argument that the Charleston people had, that she checked on the box on her Form 1, I want to be a state delegate. She paid the money. And when she went to the convention, her name was nowhere. And the slate was elected. And if you've heard Barbara Arthur speak, you know she is quite excitable, and she speaks with such authority. And she made, as far as I was concerned, she made her argument. Her name was not even, nobody could vote for her because she wasn't on the slate. And I thought, this is really not fair. And I posted later, I didn't intend to vote for her for GOP chair. But in this case, I thought that she should have appeared on the ballot. And then Darlington could have voted whether or not she was going to be a state delegate. But
one question, and again, this is just because I've learned, maybe it's the being married to a lawyer thing. I've learned to just get all the information. I know Barbara was challenged on social media with a question, and we have never seen an answer whether they had a ballot that she was left off of, or they didn't have a ballot. So if they only had a slate and no ballot, like in Charleston, that would have been definitely a problem.
right.
If they had a ballot like we did in Greenville, and a slate is a recommended list of people. There is no requirement to be on the slate.
Right.
If she was left off of the slate, well,
Tough luck.
tough luck.
Right.
But I don't know what the answer is.
Well,
there was never a clarity whether they had a ballot or not.
she left and the other side came in. So that was one of the questions. Was there a ballot? And he said, well, she could have had a ballot. She could have been on a ballot, but there wasn't a ballot. There was just a slate.
Okay.
And then one of the other credentialers, Verd Odom, got up because she had said something about he was president of the convention, and he defended the fact that she could have presented herself. I still thought that was shady, so I voted for her to because I think she had the way that it reads for all of us that click that little thing. The way that it reads, you click that box, you pay your $20. It says, I want my name placed on a ballot. Well, if there's no ballot, your name can't be placed on it. So I voted for her. And when we voted, we voted ahead of they got to come in and see us vote. So, of course, it was 33-5 or something like that. It was still very one-sided, and she was very unhappy.
And for clarity, for different reasons,
Right.
especially main reason that Barbara Arthur she was always included in the state group effort, America First group, and she was kind of part of the team until we challenged her how she was doing in her congressional district, in her county, to help the cause of bringing America First Patriot into the game. She got very offended, and that's when she decided to start her tour, from my observation, across the state to campaign not against Jeff, I was going to say, and combine two names, not against Drew McKissick. She was campaigning against Jeff Davis.
Yeah.
And that was very unfair, heartbreaking, and against everything that we have built as far as America First movement, because we're not here to fight other candidates. We're here to change how the current SCGOP is being run, and that is Drew McKissick. So I'm not a fan of Barbara because where she went, every Facebook post she made, it was against my husband, and it was disgusting.
And
however, that being said, we did vote as Greenville. We did vote in her favor in that appeal, because we vote not for personalities, we
Right.
vote for the process and what's right. And
Right.
there a lot of shadiness. I still feel like there were a lot of answers that may not have been answered from her. She was just hanging on to like this argument or that argument, being that we have missed few people on our ballot before our ballots were printed for county convention, and we printed the addendum with those 4 names. It was an oversight. It was a mistake. There are fixes. And like Becky said, she probably could have stood up at the convention and said, hey, my name is not on the ballot. If there is a ballot, we still
she
don't know.
left 30 minutes early.
And again,
so she was gone from the part of the convention when they voted. And that was from the convention president, who stood up and said, if she'd have been there, she could have nominated herself. She could have said, wait, my name's supposed to be on the ballot and it's not there. And she had left the convention hall 30 minutes early.
Well,
I still voted for her. And to back up what Olga's saying, for all of us who worked so hard at ReOrg, and we were calling people, we were making sure we had our precinct rock solid, we were delivering our counties. It took months to do that. And Barbara was promoting herself around the state. And I just tried to be very objective and do the right thing
So
About
you
her
hear
complaint.
us always say it's mission over self, right? You have to be, you cannot be closed-minded and think what position you want. And that is, in my observation, what Barbara was doing. She did not deliver her count. Not only we were hoping she would deliver her district, the congressional district, not herself, but she would create a team like we did in 4th
Yeah.
Congressional District. She didn't deliver that. She did not deliver her own county, but she took all this time, drive around and promote herself with a result that she didn't even qualify, rightfully so or not, but that's how you build your base.
Right.
If she had her base in the county, she would probably qualify to run
Yeah.
for chairwoman or chairman of SCGOP, but that's how you start. You have to build your base. She didn't do it. All that being said, we still vote for her. We went, Greenville
Right.
was one of the 6 votes because the whole system was not right or transparent, so she cannot use that against us. We voted for her.
And that was Joe McClellan.
Joe McClellan, our credentialing chairman.
And then the last one was Pickens, and that one's got lots of information because Pickens, they wanted to, what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna ask you a question before you discussed what happened at Pickens.
Okay,
The question that I would have is, there was a comment about the delegates being limited to 400. Okay, that whole
Yeah,
fiasco.
right.
My question is, when was that discovered? If that was discovered the night before they had the meeting to discuss it and unseat the people, that would be one thing. But if that allegation was made 2 weeks before, who made the decision to not talk about it and tell them about it until the night before the convention?
Yeah.
Because that's the person who wanted to determine the outcome. Because
So-
it would give them time to have meetings. Oh, you got this problem with Pickens. Well, let's have a meeting. Let's get that resolved before the
Right.
convention.
Right,
That would be normal thinking.
right.
But if, let's wait until the night before the convention and kick them all out, that'll help us.
Right.
And Becky can look at her notes. What I know, the state EC for newly elected for Pickens, and she was part of the team, maybe credentialing team too.
Was
Rhonda?
she was
Right.
there on the credentialing
She
team as well.
found out about the challenge either Friday or the night or Thursday night.
Yeah, the,
Friday before the
Like
convention.
the night, yes.
it was Wednesday night. It was Wednesday afternoon that it was filed. The challenge was filed, and we're there on Friday.
Okay.
So I don't know when they notified Pickens that a formal complaint had been filed, but the formal complaint wasn't filed until 2 days before the. So this is interesting because I asked Rhonda for as much information that I could share. On March 29th, Bob Federley, who was the chair in Pickens, sent an email to Leighton Gray, who's the executive director of the GOP. He said the 400 Form 1s we were given have been spoken for. Now, I know what happened in Spartanburg. We had an EC meeting and we flat asked them how many, because I was watching what Greenville was doing and people were coming in, getting their forms, making sure there were enough. And I'm thinking, I know how hard we've worked and how many people we've got coming to ReOrg. I'm going to go ask Curtis Smith at the microphone how many Form 1s he had. It's none of your business. I've got enough. I went, okay. So the legitimacy of Pickens saying, hey, we've got 400, and they didn't anticipate that many people coming to their convention. He said they've all been spoken for, I suppose, by precinct leaders saying, I'll need this many, I'll need this many. They'd all been spoken for. He said, I'm hearing through various sources that people are believing they can fill out the Form 1 on blank paper and submit it. This will put us in a position where these people are not allowed in the venue due to the fire code. Because he thought, well, if we've got 400 and they're all spoken for and a bunch of other people start filling them out on blank paper, we don't know how many people are coming. So he said Southern Wesleyan University's Founders Hall, which was the site of our 23 convention, has seating for 340 with a possible addition of 60 in an overflow. This is the largest indoor venue we could get to meet the SC 7970 and ADA requirements. The only larger venue in Pickens is the Performing Arts Center in Liberty. Anybody ever been to Liberty? Oh my gosh. Was removed from contention when the state settled on May 3rd as the convention date. Because when they put May 3rd, you had to have the convention 2 weeks prior to that. So when the state set that one, they couldn't even use the other larger venue because it conflicted with the date. So the GOP chair sends this information to Columbia, to the SCGOP in March. On April 30th, they file a complaint.
Yeah, that's what my
A
next
whole
question.
month later, they filed a complaint. And basically, this simply was, it wasn't a very good complaint because at the end, she didn't say, I want this to happen. She was basically saying, I didn't get elected because we could have had a lot more people there had the venue been bigger. What the argument basically was, there's 400 Form 1s, which didn't have as much to do with the argument as if you think about what happens when they decide how big it might be. In Greenville's case, 2,300, something around 2,300. You take the number of people that vote in the election that is selected, which is a whole nother issue. And we can talk about that after. It just didn't impact this case. But then you divide by 600 to get each precinct's number. So when you add up all the precinct numbers for Greenville, 2,300 people could have shown up at the convention. In Spartanburg, 1,200 could have shown up for the convention. In Pickens, 700 could have shown up. Well, in Spartanburg, we know we only had 250 last time.
Guess what? In Charleston, over 1,200 could have showed up, and their capacity of their venue was 950.
So there you
They
go.
did the same thing.
The
Right,
same
everybody did the same.
Well,
No,
not
no.
Greenville. Our capacity was like everything we
Plenty.
needed because we went. For us, there was no venue that would fit in between the numbers we needed. It was
Yeah.
Get Bon
we
Secours
just
next time.
right,
Yeah,
what
right.
but the TD Convention
Yeah.
Center fit our whole capacity. Were we worried about it? No, it didn't even cross my mind,
Yeah.
our mind, that we had to have a venue to fit the 2,300 when we knew how many people participated in ReOrg, and it was not close to that number.
Right.
Why would you rent something that
Right.
you don't need?
Yeah.
However, now we're glad we did because
Right.
maybe we could have gotten in trouble
Yeah.
for that. But since you mentioned the forms, what I and Bob Federley, the former chairman's defense, when we got our Form 1s first from the state, I don't remember how many we got, but our initial reaction was we need more. And since I was helping with ReOrg, I knew that firsthand all Yvonne's communications with the state of coordination. So Yvonne went to the state and asked if we need more forms, could we make copies, right?
Mhm.
In
Wow.
case we're preparing.
Mhm.
And they said, absolutely not. And Yvonne again insisted, what is our scenario if we need more forms? We want to be ready. The state said you are not allowed to make copies
Right.
of Form 1, but if you need a copy, we will send you an electronic file of Form 1, which I assume would have said copy or something, and you will be able to print those. I don't think we've ever received that, and it was fine. We didn't need as many copies as we had. In fact, we shared our copies with Spartanburg per the state's request. The state actually came, pick up our copies and took it to Spartanburg.
So when we're going through our Form 1s, not related to the Pickens story, and we're looking at all of this in Spartanburg, I'm seeing Greenville scratched out and Spartanburg written in. I'm like,
What?
oh, we have
No
enough. You don't need to
kidding.
know how many. And so there's
then they'll say it's
Greenville.
But to Bob's defense, when
Yeah.
Bob, from my understanding, rejected 21
Oh,
Form
my
1s
goodness.
because they were copies.
Right.
He did not run out of Form 1s, the triplicate. He had enough, but copies were being made somewhere. And he rejected those. And we would do the same thing because we were told no copies allowed.
And
So
I think 12 of those were late.
that's the other thing.
There was a deadline. You got to have them in by this time, and 12 of them were late. But think about it this way. 700 is when you take that number of people that voted in the election, divide it by 600, then Pickens could have had 700 show up. They knew it wasn't going to happen. They thought 400 was big enough. All right, when ReOrg happened, I want to say, I know exactly how many it is, 339 people showed up for ReOrg. 339.
For reorg, not convention
Not
itself.
convention. 339 show up for ReOrg. So still their 400 is fine.
Right.
287 showed up for convention. They had 400 seats. Why was this even a challenge?
Wow.
It should never have been a challenge, but the entire Pickens delegation was unseated. And the one thing that hasn't been said enough, and you've probably seen the picture, is where was Pickens seated? Front row. Now, where was Greenville? All the way in the back. Where was Spartanburg? All the way in the back. All of us, America First, were in the back.
That's to make the voice votes louder for the others.
Right.
Well,
But
Which is a
Pickens
joke anyway.
was on the front row,
I
and
still see
all
the-
these empty seats of Pickens right up on the front for everybody to see
Oh,
because they never, ever, ever intended
Oh,
to
For them
seat
to be
them.
there.
But I remember the
So
challenge that
Oh, there's a
that
spiritual-
during the voice vote that people in the alternate area were voting. That is not, that's not a fact, that was not brought up. They didn't vote on it, make a comment on it. But I firsthand seen it, because I was sitting in
Yeah.
the very back row, and I seen people literally right in front of me, 4 rows deep, voting with those people up front.
Yeah.
In the voice
The
vote.
alternates should not be in, well, you
Shouldn't
shouldn't
have
have
been
voice,
open in their mouth.
voice
Well, what's-
voting for anything
Right.
anyway.
With voice
They
vote,
were
how do you
specifically
control it?
voting with voice up front for the,
Yeah.
for the, of course, the establishment.
Well, we had, of course, ideas circulating since, but you all remember the Pickens rally in 2023, summer 2023 in Pickens, Trump's rally. Anyone of you were there? Oh, remember what
Oh,
happened? Remember what happened?
It was a 15-minute boom.
So, one of the theories out there is, what if that was the punishment for Pickens?
Well. Oh, wow.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yes, sir.
See, I think it feels to me, just being on the outside looking in, because I'm still a guppy, I'm still learning, but I 100% support you and Jeff and Yvonne and everybody. It's just, it feels like it was a foregone conclusion because they didn't ask for our ID. So that
I didn't
means,
win this.
right, so that means like, whoever, a barista at Starbucks could walk in
Right.
and be a delegate. And so,
As long as you have the right number.
right, so you only would do that if you already knew the outcome. And I'm thinking two Stalinist things are, Stalin said, it doesn't matter who gets the votes, it matters who counts the votes. And the other one is, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So in other words, they had a foregone conclusion saying, okay, what do we have to do to have won? Let's say we've won. And then what legal, ethical, or unethical obstructions and loopholes and minefields can we back into this thing? So again and again and again and again, we thwart the good people through, and even the oily way that it was said, like, oh, we're so darn sorry. It was midnight and we felt so bad that we had to unseat everybody in Pickens, and so it's Slim Pickens. But I'm thinking, like, Drew Carney knew what he was doing, and they planned it. I call him Drew Carney.
Absolutely.
But they did that on purpose, but they planned it ahead. So they figured out, this is the conclusion. What do we have to do in the way of well thought obstructions, backing it up, so every step of the way there's a red light for the good guys.
And then all you had to know was your name and precinct, because me and Bobby went in, no ID check at the front, no ID check at the credential, nothing. We just said who we were and we ran.
Well, and I'm just going to throw there, I wasn't there to know the process, but I know, and I don't know whether we should go by, our credentialing team, it was our team. And I know our people know our people.
Okay.
As far as the front, to let anyone come through and then maybe try to sneak in, that's a different story, because there's no way the state people know who our Greenville people are. That should maybe been a different.
I thought it was interesting too that the speaker would speak so you couldn't understand him, but at times he would speak so you could understand him. So I thought it was very timely. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, he went from rhino auctioneer over to English professor, depending on his audience.
Yes.
Well, one thing that happened after Pickens made their argument, and again, I was the newbie there, and I'd already lost 2 votes, and I could see where it was going. But I thought, this is just cut and dry. There's no sense in even discussing this. It happened to every single county. We knew that number that was given to us was not going to be the number of delegates that shows up for county in any county. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, there's no argument here at all. So I'm waiting, and the people who made the arguments left. Here's what happened. Joe McLaughlin had made an argument earlier, and I'm not sure which case it was for, but he was talking about, and it might have even been this one, he was talking about specifically, well, this is what happened in Greenville. Well, the credentialing chairman says, we're not talking about specifics, we're not bringing that in. Joe, sit down, shut up. So Joe sits down, shuts up. All right, so for the Pickens case, we're getting ready to argument. Up jumps Chad Conley, who is everybody's darling in the establishment. I don't know these things because I'm new. And he says, my son was at ReOrg and he was disenfranchised because he waited 3 hours for a Form 1 and he finally left. And everybody's going, oh no.
I don't know how this is gonna work, but let's not even do a hearsay here. I have this clip that I recorded where the chairman of Pickens GOP, that is not the chairman anymore, the former chairman, he ran the ReOrg. He came on the radio with Charlie James, and it's a short clip of 1:25. He addressed just that issue. So again, everyone felt bad from what we're told for Chad Conley's son that was, according to his father, turned away from ReOrg. We didn't know at the time, was it ReOrg or convention, or was it clear?
It wasn't clear.
Right. So this is Bob Federley on the radio, and this is what he said. Can we hear this or no? Oh no, maybe we cannot. Oh, hold on.
Get that little microphone.
I heard it.
Yeah, hold on.
Does the microphone work?
What we're doing, and here's why.
Okay. No, that's not gonna.
I do know that one.
Hold on. It's not gonna.
Doing, and here's why. And I do know that one of the complaints that got back to me was that a man was turned away from our reorganization. That's a bald-faced lie. That young man is named Barrett Connolly. Barrett Connolly is the son of Chad Connolly. He came up in line like everybody else. Only unlike everybody else, he asked the ladies checking him in, how long is this going to take? And they explained to him, well, sir, that's up to you and your precinct. And you check in until 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, everybody sits at their table. This was at Liberty High School. Right. And it is between you and your precinct members. If you want to debate things for 5 minutes, an hour, somewhere around 2 hours, we'll ask you to hurry up and get going. But he said, well, I can't stay here that long. And his wife or girlfriend, I don't know which the case is, said, yeah, we've got to leave at 11. And so the ladies just explained, well, you understand everyone has until 11 to check in, and then you sit down and talk. And they left of their own accord. So that was the first complaint that got back to me, again, not directly, but indirectly.
Yeah. So the complaint was,
So this is what happened. And this is Bob Federley, the former chairman, who was there, who was running ReOrg, said Barrett Conley showed up with his wife or girlfriend, asked around, how long does ReOrg take? You all know, you all participate in ReOrg. You don't know how many people showed up, but you can make it as quick as you want to. And he turned around and left.
He left before they were even finished letting people in.
Yeah.
So he did not want to participate.
Right. So while Joe McLaughlin can't bring up something in Greenville that was relational, not related so much to the challenge as we all had this issue, sit down, be quiet, Ted Conley jumps up and everybody goes, oh no, we've disenfranchised someone.
Let's send him some flowers.
It was so incredibly one-sided that it was just hard to believe.
No.
And on my left, 2 people down, was Sumter County, home of Merle Smith. But this was Sherry White, and she wanted to make an example out of Pickens. We can't keep having this kind of cheating in at our state convention. We need to make an example out of them. They need to be unseated. And somebody else joined with them, and so there you go. And it was, again, 33, 34 to 6.
Like our own J6ers.
Yeah.
Very much.
They were
Wow.
like our own
Again,
J6ers.
example out of Charleston, they literally did a voice vote on the leadership, chairman, vice chairman position. They didn't let anyone speak. You're talking about fairness of elections.
And this is if this was your first state convention, it wasn't that much different than the last state convention. It wasn't that much different than the last Spartanburg convention. We've seen it. And the only way, and this is, I give Jeff kudos for this because it's what he's been screaming for the last 8 or 9 months, is don't even think about doing it any other way than overwhelming them with votes. If you overwhelm them with votes, you go in with more votes. You can't shoot for 51%.
Nope.
Because somebody's grandson's going to have a graduation or something, and you're going to lose one, and then it's going to be even Steven in your toast.
But
You've got to have more.
they were overwhelmed with votes and they canceled
They
the
would
votes
have been.
out.
Right.
They knew they
Right.
were.
But they canceled it. So is there no way to challenge this? I mean, this is so corrupt, what was done. And I mean, this is at the state level. Is there no way to go up to the national level to challenge what was done? I mean, it's like being a target, allowing yourself to be a target.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And they did it so skillfully, actually.
A new tactic this year was turn off the mics. I mean, that didn't happen
yeah.
last time,
Yeah.
but it did this time.
And even this with the delegates were voting. I mean, the alternates were voting. It's so corrupt.
Right.
And there's got to be some kind of challenge to it.
It's
And I
like
think-
they-
Some way.
It's like they had a treachery plan B,
Yeah,
treachery plan C,
yes,
dirty
they
tricks
had it all
plan D,
figured out.
and just the next. and the next.
And remember, again, I wasn't there, but the reports, and Becky can probably talk about it more. Remember the first vote on the convention president, they announced Jordan Pace's number, they announced Ragley's number that was
Right.
less than 50%
Right.
from my understanding.
Right.
And then we're counting Jordan
Okay.
Pace's number, which the first person gets under 50%. That kind of math
And they
everyone
wouldn't give
can
us the other
do.
number.
Right,
And then
They said that's
suddenly
not
they
count.
changed the structure of voting.
right.
And
They
I'm
said we were interrupted, the count was interrupted, that's what they said.
okay, and I don't know all the rules, but I'm not sure that's the right thing to do.
so it almost
Um,
seems like it, even if you wait for the next 2 years, it's almost a defeated process. And Drew McKissick is the person who helped Trump lose. He was second in command to Ronna.
And that's why
Yeah.
he's not there anymore.
That's right.
But
why Trump
but he's
fired him.
here.
He's here. And to Becky's point, what was how your numbers in Spartanburg? You guys took over a huge county this time because what was your advantage in your votes?
We didn't know what our
Right.
advantage was. We thought we were gonna win because we were, well, if you all remember, we were hitting the radio waves and Bill Frady was listening to us and playing it, and the establishment was getting very upset. But we called them out for not telling us the date of ReOrg. They wouldn't even tell us when it was gonna be. They wouldn't tell us where it was gonna be. So we sat in a little room, and now I'm telling secrets. That's okay, it's over. At Denny's, and we got our phones out and we start calling around to find out where we might be having ReOrg and when it might be. So you call, of course, you're going to call the last place that it was. It was at High Point Academy 2 years ago. We call High Point Academy. We just say, can you look at the schedule and see if the Republican Party has anything scheduled
That's a good idea.
for a Saturday in March? No, don't have anything. But we do have something on a Thursday in March. What could we be doing on a Thursday? Well, that was the first hint that it wasn't going to be Saturdays like it had always been. And so we thought, now what is it going to be? We still didn't know. It was going to be in 3 different places at 3 different times until the absolute last minute that they had to tell us. As a matter of fact, Yvonne, I was asking Yvonne, did they announce it? Because it was supposed to be announced at the EC meeting on a Saturday, and that was the deadline. Well, we didn't get notified until 6:10 the next day so that we could figure out where we were. Anyway, we worked very hard to take our precincts, to maximize. And Georgia Martha are in my precinct. We took 26 people for 13 seats, and we won all the 13 seats. And we tried to do that in every precinct, but we just didn't know why, because they wouldn't tell us the numbers we were getting. And we're turning in pink slip and calling people that we know are America First, but we're not sure about other counties because we never got a list of ECs. Even though we were ECs from last cycle, there were a handful of us. So we wanted a list of ECs so we could start calling people. We never got it in 2 years. We never got that list. So we didn't know if we thought we were winning because every one of those 3 nights we were standing outside greeting them saying, nice to see you. I don't know anybody in Spartanburg. Look, these are my friends. I live in Greer, this far from Greenville, and I do life in Greenville. So I have to depend on my new Spartanburg friends. And so Georgia Martha are the same way. They do life in Greenville because we live just off of Highway 14. So we think we're winning, but we don't know.
Yeah, but the unknown, I think, makes us, I know that was in Greenville, probably you too, makes us work harder
Yeah.
because as
Yeah.
long as you don't settle thinking you're winning, number one, and then you don't get what we teach others, don't get distracted with this. We don't know the location, we don't know the date. Just keep working
Right.
and then explain that to people. That's what we were doing, and use it toward your advantage.
have a way to
They're
reach
keeping
all
it
of them.
secret. Please keep your schedule open, and it's hard to do for some. And then people get more, people get upset that they're being the information is being kept from them.
Right.
They're more eager to come up for you, and that's what happened in Greenville before. I think that's what happened for you guys.
Are there any procedures, what if any, to challenge, I'm not talking about a lawsuit, but within state rules and everything,
Yes.
ethics and rules breaches?
remedy.
So we can say, okay, on the 18th, you said this and you did that. On the 2nd, we asked you for this, you said it's coming, you're gonna get it, Becky's gonna get this in 5 days. It never came. You said this, you did that. Is there not a procedure in the interim between now and next reorg to, 2 years from now, to do something like that, to
Yeah.
call them and say, look, here are 11 violations, et cetera, and we're calling you on these. I mean, I understand there's not a convention, but can't we go after some of these people and the procedures now and make it public for their glaring breaking of the law in the interim?
So what I can tell you, what Jeff keeps doing, and he's been doing for 4 years, he often writes a letter to SCGOP when there is anything that we're not, because many of the rules are written the way that you can interpret it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And SCGOP has rule committee. The chairman is a I think he's the top lobbyist in South Carolina politics, a guy named Tony Denny. And he just, I guess, as a rules committee, he interpreted the rules the way he wants to, because again, they're not very clear and direct. But what Jeff does often, he would write SCGOP and say, hey, this is what we're wondering about. What is your position on it? If anything, to get it in writing for future reference. And if we get it in writing, then we can show it to other counties. And even though state, is not friendly to us or whatever you want to call it, often they bring that issue either at the state executive committee meeting or issue like an opinion, whatever you want to call it. So we have some things addressed, but it's work. We try to do it. And then at the end of the day, will they really apply it?
Yeah.
When it comes to the next convention, to the next reorg and all of
Do you
that.
have to send everything certified? Because they go, we didn't get that.
I think, and again, Jeff is not here to answer that. I don't think he does certify. He probably maybe mail too. And to their credit, they actually respond, or maybe they don't respond to Jeff directly, but at the executive committee meeting, they're addressing the issue. So when we get the report back,
But
we
the
kind of get
executive committee is so incredibly one-sided. I mean, if you can listen to what happened to Pickens and vote against Pickens, then there's no point. It's going to be one-sided for 2 more years. The only thing that we've got to do is we've got to get into those little counties and we've got to flip them. And it's Union and Lawrence and Greenwood and Cherokee. We've got to flip enough of those so that we have a presence on the executive committee, so that we've got more delegates when we get there, because we can't win a challenge. That's, simple to see, that we're never going to win a challenge when we are that outnumbered by the establishment. And so we've got 2 years, and we need to start knocking on doors in other counties and finding out whose cousins live down there and go down. They got chickens. We're going down there. Yeah.
I mean, I just found out, and I'm not going to share name or county or whatever, but someone who does not live in the particular county, and the particular county, we had some people working there trying to take over. It has not been successful. One person apparently helped with advocacy on a specific issue, and they have 500 people on their email list. So we were like, let's go. We may have, in another county that would be huge to our cause. Irene, you want to say something?
What about, I know that Steve Stern used to have precinct strategy.
Right.
And there's a man in Florida named Raj. It's an Indian name. He has like a second person who helps him. It just seems to me that it needs to be elevated nationally at some form or another. And the very fact that they don't even tell you where they're meeting, and you have to call up at different places and say, is something scheduled? This is ridiculous. I mean, it just should not be that way. There's got to be some rules, rules that are followed.
But I'll tell you what, Irene, this is the good news. And I was thinking about it when I was on the way over here listening to Mike Gallagher, who I don't love, but he's the one that's on when I'm on my way over here. And he was talking about Trump outsmarting everybody. What he did with Ed Martin. Okay, you, Tom Tillis, aren't going to vote for Ed Martin. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Ed Martin and put him over all the pardons. You don't like what he did with January 6th? Watch this. So we need Trump. We need a Trump-like person who is, you do that to me, watch what I do to you. And I'll tell you what happened in Spartanburg. They wouldn't tell us where it was. We kept pounding away, calling Bill Frady, getting everybody aggravated. We went from 6 or 7 people at Denny's to 20, 30, 40 at the clock, and we grew out of it, and now we're in the Peach Blossom Diner with 80. And you know what? We'll grow out of that, and we'll have to have more. But when you aggravate people and you tell them the story and you tell them the truth, then you can get an army behind you. And we just need to go get that army started in these little counties, because look at us.
We need a few more Bill Frady's in the Low Country.
You
and other
do.
places.
You
Well,
do.
the point is also, to Irene's point, no one wants, I don't want to say no one wants to hear, but people love success stories. How we grow because we took over Greenville. I believe we encouraged Spartanburg by our success story. They copied, and that will just go from here, in my opinion. We don't want to go, like, even with Steve Bannon, right? Jeff can get on his show pretty much when he wants to, not when he wants to, but he could. He's not going to go there on Saturday and cry about how they beat us. We want to share a success story. Even today, if we don't have a full success story, we can talk about how bad they were, but we're going to add how we're going to overcome it next time.
But they also like to hear about fraud.
Right, yeah. But it has to be a combination.
You can make it a positive thing
Yes.
by saying they're trying to beat us by doing
Right.
this, this,
And
and
we're
this.
overcoming
Yes.
in such a way.
Yes.
But the fraud, abuse
Has to
needs
be exposed.
exposed.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And the next thing that's coming up is Lindsey Graham. Trump is behind Lindsey Graham. I mean, South Carolina needs to get on the radar. We're thought of as being a conservative state, but we're not.
Right.
We're becoming like Texas, actually, infiltrated. As far as I'm concerned, Texas is infiltrated with communists and whatever. We're becoming the same way, and we need to get on the radar.
But you know what, Irene? I think
Yeah.
there's, and I think that Georgia Martha Washington would defend themselves for coming here from Washington and bringing more conservatism than we had in South Carolina, because we've been complacent. I have 2 couples in my precinct from New York, 2 couples. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. They happened to have an American flag flying, and I just wheeled in their driveway and talked to them. And they're from Buffalo. Where are you from?
I'm not saying now. Is that loaded?
So they met Anthony, one of this couple at the Mountains, Tim and Kim. So here they are from New York, and the other couple from Buffalo. They are wildly conservative, and they left those places to bring it here.
Refugees.
And the reason I'm saying that is because growing up in Florida, we watched the New Yorkers come in, and they were not coming there for freedom. They were coming there for the beach and the palm trees, and they changed Florida, which is flipped back. But what I'm saying is these people are coming for freedom, and we need to let them carry the banner of freedom in our precinct.
But if we
need
have crooked politicians,
We have to vote them out.
Right.
And I hate to say it with Lindsay, you know, when you talk Trump, we know why Trump supports Lindsay. He needs him for the vote. He needs him in the Senate. It's too close to let him go. And I hate to say it, by a candidate that we have now, one running with Lindsay having 4 times more money than the one candidate we have, it's not, we cannot go to Trump and say, well, no, we have to turn our back for Trump to turn his back on Lindsay for a candidate that, in my opinion, has no shot at all.
I hear you.
And here's the problem that people, that you're not understanding. As long as Drew McKissick and his ilk continue to keep the primaries open,
Absolutely.
they will continue to get people like
Yes.
Lindsey Graham the votes they do, because the Democrats are coming across to vote for him because he's a Democrat, no matter what you think.
Right.
He does 2 years, he's a full-blown Democrat his first 2 years. The second 2 years of his 6-year term, he starts getting on the fence, kind of walking that fence. And then his last 2 years, all of a sudden I'm super conservative, and people only pay about the 2 years. They forget about the first 4. Because people have a narrow, their mind, they don't have the ability to see past right now.
I want to ask Ron what he said. Don't run away, because the best picture that came out of the convention was
Yes.
that man right there doing this to Lindsey Graham. It was-
Yeah.
And did you have your dump Lindsey hat on?
No.
that was impressive.
I think Spartanburg delegation wins the award for most dump Lindsey hats. But
I was really.
Mark
Look, this is the picture.
about
There he is.
this, But I'll say this, he diverted from me. He turned away from me because he didn't want.
After you told him you were going to eat that biscuit, or before?
That's right.
When I told him about the biscuit, he wanted to divert away from me. He just didn't want to hear about no, because what I said to him was there's more pork in your legislation than there is in this biscuit. And he just turned away, and he didn't want to hear it, and then he started to defend himself. Well, what do you mean? Give me some specifics. And I started talking, and he said, well, I'm not over that. It was about the judicial committee in the Senate. And he didn't want to hear that. He said, I'm not there. I have no power. I said, no, back when you did, when Trump was president the first time, that's when my finger went up. I said, the first time. And then he just turned away. He said, no, I'm on the budget committee now. That's very powerful. He told me. That's very
It is.
At
powerful.
first, I thought you were
It is.
talking to somebody else. You're writing his tic tac zone.
So that's the way that went. And there was no hard words or anger or anything.
it was a great picture.
I was there just to make a spoof. And
Yeah.
You made your
Yeah.
point. One of Steve Bannon is against Lindsey Graham. Trump may be for him. Steve Bannon is against him. I've heard that enough times.
Kirk. Because
Yeah.
of Lady Graham.
And we need to,
There's a whole.
We need to do our part.
That are against
From
it.
a good candidate
The
to
problem still boils down to the open primaries. Until we put enough pressure on, and it's gonna have to come from everybody calling your legislatures and calling your senators and telling them, close the damn primaries
Yeah.
and quit
Well,
freaking
we already
making
voted on it.
excuses.
We
Because
already voted
here's
on
the deal.
We passed the
The
resolution.
primary here, this is what you'll hear from the legislatures. Oh, well, that's the party's problem. They're the ones that won. They're the ones that got closed. And then, of course, the party drew, and they were saying, well, it's legislature. So we got to play both of them against each other, saying, okay, well, whose damn fault really is it? Because you keep saying it's their fault, they keep saying it's your fault, so who the hell? And we need to start really.
That's how they avoided it.
Putting fire to their feet and saying, you're gonna either do your job that we send you to do, or you're gonna not be there the next time. it comes
Put them
around.
both on a surprise Zoom call where they don't know each other's gonna be on there.
I don't know, did you all grab the flyer that was on your chairs at the state convention,
Yes.
flyer for McKissick? Notice how, I don't have it with me here, but notice what it says, you know, there were, oh, there's Madam Chair.
I'm here for my audition for The View. I'm probably gonna get the job because I'm late.
I told Yvonne if she joined us today, since Becky was co-hosting with me and Yvonne joined, we will have like the Greenville version of The View. If you notice on that flyer, since there was a conversation about switching from the primary structure of electing our candidates to the convention, which was only to make a point, either you're going close our primaries or we'll move to convention style. When you look at the flyer that McKissick was using, kind of that point to scare people, the flyer said, save our primaries.
Yeah.
Did you catch on that? It didn't say close our
As if
primaries.
they're under threat.
It said save our primaries. So that's another.
From Jeff Davis.
Yes, Ron.
I did have my Drain the Swamp shirt on though.
Oh,
But I want to stand up for what Irene's saying here. Is that, because I heard Bill Brady say the very same thing on the radio. He said, we can't let Pickens go. We got to do something now. And Bill Brady was pushing that point. He says, if we don't do something now and get it corrected, we're going to be facing the same thing down the road.
Absolutely.
They're just gonna do it to somebody else.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and now they've got precedent for
Absolutely.
how they did it.
Absolutely.
I bet Pickens will be more motivated to grow
Oh, they
next
are.
time around.
Absolutely. They already are. I mean, they've been great. You know, they took it over from establishment in 2021 when we did. And anyway, it's kind of a long story. When chairman at the time got elected, he called Jeff really early on. They didn't know each other, and kept saying, I've been warned about you, that I'm not supposed to talk to you or align with you. So that's why I'm calling you, because that I was intrigued.
Right.
And they've been friends with since, and Tim did excellent job, you know, keeping Pickens conservative. Then Bob got elected. So this is their third term, keeping it strong and conservative hands. And the person that filed a complaint against Pickens, it was a third candidate. They had two America First groups kind of competing with each other a little bit. I mean, they work together. They were just two different camps running. And then the third slate was the establishment. And they got maybe out of the 270 votes, maybe like 25. It was really not competitive for the establishment people, and they were the ones that filed the complaint. So that tells you something. Ray, you want to talk about the Pope?
Oh. I like Leo the 14th. He's like
Just
Leo the
kidding.
13th, and Leo the 4th, and Leo the 1st, and he'll be really good. If we're coming out of the convention, I know when we had that precinct, the county by county count, I was writing down numbers. I wish I had written down the county. And I know Terry, she was writing down numbers too. Did anybody come out with like a count per county so we can see which counties are MAGA or
Yes.
going MAGA versus ones that are just Rhino?
We have
And
all that.
which ones to target? Do we have that kind of data? You know, we kind of put up on the whiteboard or something, you know, so we can target specific counties.
On myscgop.news, we publish an article actually with all the numbers.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. It's all you can
Okay,
see
look at
clearly who had the split votes, who had, you know, how people voted each county.
Yeah.
So it's,
I like to know what targeting.
oh yeah, it's telling.
Right.
You can learn a lot from that data.
But if you think about, so to your point though, if you think about targeting, I mean, when we got organized here, there was nobody that, so I think it has to be done locally, I guess is my point. It is, you can't, right, but I think, you know, we yeah, exactly, but I think the focus is, because it's the same problem with all of the issues. You know, you can have Drew derangement syndrome, but if you got those 40 ECs sitting there, you're still gonna have the problem. Drew drops dead, you still have the problem because you have that body that's voting in his favor. So you got that. But it's the same issue with primaries. You're not turning out people to vote for the primaries. Then that's the problem is not that the establishment's not doing it because there's no consequences for them not doing it. So it has at some point you have to start to do what like Becky did. You have to motivate enough people to make a difference. And that to me is our biggest challenge.
Our challenge though is what we're talking about, getting people angry about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I've been in this since the Tea Party times. And after the Tea Party, I went to the convention, first convention I was ever to.
Right.
I think Connolly was the head of that. And he ran it the same way that
Chad
Drew has
Mm-hmm.
been handled.
Right.
And we were shut down. Greenville County was shut down. We had a number of good things that we wanted to put on the floor. We were not allowed to speak. They said, wait till the end of the convention.
Well, Drew has
You'll
learned
get
from the
your
best.
chance.
Right.
And at the end of the convention, they
Right.
just had a voice vote who's
Right.
have it. Everybody said, no, we want to go on with the convention, and they shut it down and everything.
Right.
Numbers.
That's exactly right. And to your, the reason we didn't have a problem at our convention is because the people who don't agree with us didn't show up. The reality is that if you read what Robert says, the role of Robert's Rules of Order is to protect the minority, but it's not to give the minority a voice. If you don't have the numbers, you don't have the numbers. That's the reality. That's just the reality.
Yeah, I walked away with the idea that there's no such thing as free speech in your own convention. There's
Well,
no
but
free
there is
speech
not no such
there.
thing as
You
there's no such
cannot
thing
get
as
it
free
out.
speech in Robert's Rules of Order. That's the reality. The purpose
It's
of
a game.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's a game,
It's right.
whether you
It's a
like it
game.
or not.
That's exactly
The
right.
rules are written certain way,
Yeah.
and no offense to the minority, but if you are coming to the convention, and I'm not saying
Right.
it's a little different at the state, right?
Right.
Whether Jeff was the chairman or Yvonne, we let the minority
Right.
speak.
Right.
And when we let them speak, what does it turn into, right?
That's right.
In our example,
That's
it was just a mess.
It was chaos.
Unproductive,
That's right.
and we were sitting in our venue until midnight.
Mhm.
Their goal was to disrupt, make
Mm-hmm.
a chaos, so good people will never want to come back because who wants to sit in a chaos until midnight, right? So now they realize we learned the rules and we
Mhm.
learned they don't have to have a voice unless it's not about taking the free speech. It's about what's your really goal here? Are you trying to achieve something or are you here to disrupt? We've learned that. We've learned that how we limit the disruption, so they quit.
Actually, what you're saying is they're the ones preventing free speech.
Correct.
Right.
Because they're just so disruptive, you don't get any.
That's exactly
Correct.
right. That's exactly
Correct.
right. Right. Because
Correct.
that's
Shooting
right.
themselves in the foot.
That's
They're
exactly
there to
right.
design so you can't make any progress on really
Correct.
legitimate issues, legislation,
That's exactly right. That's right.
censorships and things of that sort. You're shut out. So they are squelching the free speech of the minority.
They should come to the mic and say, can we put this on the table for the next meeting?
Right, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's right. Because the rules say your speech is about whatever motion is up. It's not like, get on Facebook, I won't mention any names here, and there's one topic that people are talking about and somebody starts babbling about something unrelated because they just want to vent,
Or they just want to turn the conversation. Or
Right,
it's
exactly.
like the squirrel thing, right?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
look there. Don't look the issue.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we're all learning and we're getting better at it
Yeah,
by
exactly.
by day.
Exactly.
I think Tress had a question.
Mhm.
Would you show me the screenshot?
Yeah,
If
that was
anyone
my-
heard what happened with Representative McGravy, did you all hear? Representative McGravy came on spoke to us. He is ahead of the South Carolina Family Caucus, and he spoke to us. And when was it?
This is
October?
what I showed you. and
Yeah, I have it.
And I
Yeah.
don't think that doesn't even make sense. that
Yeah,
statement.
Well,
And
so
I just wondered if that's
yeah,
what
I can.
they're thinking.
So if what happened this week,
Mhm.
Ray probably knows.
Yeah, he knows the whole.
since Ray, by the way, Tommy, can you put the camera on Ray?
I don't know. I'm trying.
Well, you gotta switch it first. Ray is our new chair of the Greenville County Republican Party pro-life committee. Carrie led the committee out. I mean, she did outstanding job, and committee is doing great. Carrie has some personal stuff that she's dealing with, and she felt that it was best for her to maybe step down for now. I believe she's still involved, right?
Yes.
But she handed off the committee to Ray, and we're going to. We're excited to have you, and cannot wait. I know the first meeting is scheduled for the committee, so.
Yes. And before the end of the meeting, I'd like to talk about.
Oh, sure.
those kinds of things.
So, well, you have the
But to
mic
address-
now.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
To address a specific question.
Can you stand up and be right?
Let's get you this mic. I think that should work for you. Yep, just pull it.
To deal with this specific question, a couple days ago, half of the family caucus was resigned. And I actually have a photocopy. I've already sent it to everyone on the pro-life committee with all their signatures. But half the members of the pro-life caucus, or the family caucus, resigned because on Palm Sunday, Students for Life went out and put flyers on the windshields of people at churches.
That's what they did.
And that's their excuse for abandoning the caucus, which was invite only by McCravey.
But what Students for Life have to do with the family? There's two different
Apparently, they're
organizations.
upset that McCravey didn't reprimand them for speaking out for life. Silence is what's.
And what church was it? I was listening to Charlie James yesterday. He took on Josh Kimbrell. Whoa, if you haven't heard that clip, he was pounding Josh Kimbrell, who just signed off, didn't read the article, blah, blah, blah. But I was wondering what it was that happened at the churches, because Josh Kimbrell said that McCravey didn't do something at the church, and I thought that he said it was Merle Smith's church, the Speaker of the House, that those kids, so evidently those kids had put flyers on the cars at the Speaker of the House's church.
Well, that part I wasn't aware of. It was them putting flyers on cars at churches on Palm Sunday.
And they're blaming McCravey because he.
I think
Because he hasn't
McCravey,
said anything against
and I think he worked with the organization, which he is the family caucus. He's a huge pro-life movement, supporter, as he should be.
I expect him to speak to a lot of such groups.
Right?
I would
Why?
be disappointed if he wasn't.
Right.
I know there is also, and I don't know all the details. There was accusation of him making, whether they were derogatory racist comments about certain legislators. And I know one example, Representative Beth Bernstein, she is in Colombia. She's Jewish, a big Democrat. She's one of the most senior, I think, House members, Democrats. She joined the family caucus, and he made a comment. It was nothing to do with her background, that she's Jewish, whatever. His comment, from my understanding, was, why would a pro-abortion Democrat join the family caucus committee when we are fighting the abortion? He made apparently a comment like that, but they turned it around that he was picking on her being Jewish. And I know there was something to do with Representative Jason Elliott and his lifestyle. I don't know what may or may not have been
Because
said.
Kimbrell's letter says homophobia and
Right.
racism.
You all maybe, I don't know, have you met Representative McGravy? That's what I laugh at. They used to pick on Jeff Davis, that he was this, and that. Representative McGravy is the nicest human that you will meet
You remember
in
from our
politics.
meeting, you know.
He spoke to us.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah,
Now
our
there-
last business meeting, because he was
Yes,
scheduled to come in October when we had the hurricane, so it got postponed. So the very last business meeting we had before ReOrg, he was our keynote.
They pick on him, you're next, whatever you're
The
doing.
information I have, I did send to the email for the GCRP, so it's in the inbox somewhere.
Yeah, and I
If
saw it.
there's an interest in passing that around to
Absolutely.
the member at large. But the pro-life committee does have a copy of it already.
Perfect.
And it has a photocopy of their signatures. It has an article that came from the state in it as well, and it talks about all these different issues.
And I glimpsed at the signature page, there were no typed names, just signatures. So I did not spend time to try to match the names to signatures, but few names did stand out when you can tell right away. And there were some House reps from Greenville that is very, very disheartening that they would sign such a nonsense and letters. So there will be more discussions about that for sure.
Well, and I think, Tracy, I think I saw the post you're talking about. The one I saw was actually posted by Harrison, and the suggestion was that the Freedom Caucus and the Family Caucus should join together. Before
Harrison posted that post, and I don't know, did he get an idea from one of the Freedom Caucus members that Jeff was actually messaging with yesterday morning, because they all talk. But what Jeff was suggesting to specific House members, it's not about caucuses join. It's about people deciding who do you want to align yourself with.
Right.
And as we know, Freedom Caucus today, and we get bashed for challenging Freedom Caucus because some people think if you name yourself certain way, you deserve all the support.
Right.
Our problem is, and I think we proved ourselves when I say we, Greenville, at the convention, we challenged certain members for the way they vote individually. You are not going to get praise just because the title of your group you're associating with. You're being looked at as an individual. For a lot of Freedom Caucus members, specifically what we pay attention, voting for 100% run government school choice, yes, you will get called out, because now we do have a school choice that was signed by the governor on the 7th, 2 days ago, that is 100% government run. Wow. Our government will be in charge of our Christian schools. Yes, we expect the school choice to be challenged in court and find unconstitutional again. So from government being in charge of our Christian schools, yes, we will have no school choice again because it will be shut down in courts. At the end of the day, who's suffering? The kids. They're not getting help again. And we will keep calling out these members that vote for it. Rob Harris is the only one that voted against it in the past. There were a few other members that were not voting on the final vote, which is interesting. They did have a courage to vote no, but at least they did not vote. I will take that. That being said, what Jeff was messaging to this House member saying, you just guys need to step away from the dark money. The Freedom Caucus group as a general, whether it's national or here, there is dark money behind it. Jim DeMint is funding something somewhere. When you're being funded by the dark money, and by dark money, it doesn't mean you're getting personal donations. Your group, the entity coming from DC, they want something from you.
It's like the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Right.
You know, 10 years ago, I thought,
Oh,
the poor Southern poverty, and it turns out it's a Marxist thing.
Right.
It's just marketing. You put labels on stuff.
Yeah.
It's just marketing.
So if our members, if our state Freedom Caucus is associated with dark money directly or indirectly, they will always be tainted. So what Jeff was suggesting, you guys need to step away and leave the name behind. You don't have to have a name to be, voting right, and then join with other members that may not have been part of Freedom Caucus, but align with people that vote the same way and believe in the same stuff. So the reboot part has been on our suggestion list for a while. But again, it doesn't mean now that they come together and create a new, group that the money is still coming from people that shouldn't be. And the same with people working for Freedom Caucus or Family Caucus. They're political consultants that have not been on our side before. Summer Flowers works for Family Caucus. She ran Knox White's campaign here. I do not believe she's the
What's
right
her name?
Summer
Summer
Flowers.
That's
Summer Flowers.
That's her real name, yeah. But it's not S, it's like
It's
S-O-M-E-R.
Oh. I don't believe she
Yeah.
is the right person to be part of Family Caucus. And who is the executive director or title, be the administrative person for South Carolina Freedom Caucus? It's Evan Newman. If you research what campaigns Evan had worked for before, these are not the people that are America First Patriots should be aligned with groups that want to stay on our conservative side. They need to hire one of you to make sure the right things are being done. They get the right ideas, and there is no explanation why they would support government being in charge of our private schools other than someone tells them to do.
Well, doesn't Texas do the same thing? In fact, I asked Jeff, I said, what is there a state that actually has a PACE type program other than Georgia, right? They have both. So it seems like the momentum in the whole country is behind government. But that to me makes sense because again, if you go back to the fact of where's the money, if people are in it for the money, then of course that's,
It's basically who has the more money can
Right.
hire more lobbyists,
Right.
can hire
That's
more loudmouths.
So it's a gravy train.
Gravy train. It has nothing to do with about the kids.
That's right. Well, remember, Olga, this was years ago. We had that campaign training, and that woman from Boston came, and she was really interesting. But she said she had she said, I have a small business because she said, I've chosen to only focus on conservatives. So she said she was acknowledging, so you're either going to be the kind of person that's going to be willing to take a personal financial hit and recognize you're not going to work for everybody, or you're going to be the kind who just says, hey, I'm working for whoever.
I just need another gig.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, yeah.
What else? What time we have? 12:39. Great.
If I may talk about the pro-life committee.
Absolutely.
Before we go. I've worked with Jeff, talked to him at last week's meeting on what his goals were, and I was actually delighted that what he wanted almost perfectly matched with what I wanted, so that's off to a good start. I have a couple anecdotes I want to share. The first one is 70% of the abortions take place in this county, but this county only has 12% of the legislative power. We're not going to win it on our own. We have to get the rest of the state involved. And so what I've done this past week, I've gotten probably about 25 contacts I've tried to make throughout the state.
Oh, wow.
Here's how I'm tracking it. If there's a name written, that means I actually have a firm contact. The rest of them are people I'm waiting on. Been working on that. One of the things I'm telling them is what I want is to reach out and talk to people. I want to improve the education on what's going on, improve the education, and I want to put gentle pressure on our legislator when it's required. And my second anecdote is that on March 4th, when McCravy's bill was went before the subcommittee, there was only 7 pro-life supporters giving testimony to support him, and there was 33 pro-abortionists that were giving testimony against him. 3 of those pro-lifers were in my car driving down to Columbia.
Wow.
So do the math. That means for every 10 counties, only 1 person stood up to say, I'm for McCravy's bill, I'm for pro-life. That's what I want to do as far as general push. If we could have gotten even 1 person out of every 2 counties instead of 1 out of every 10, it would have been 50-50. If we could have gotten 1 person out of every county, they may very well have been the minority, depending on how quickly people got there.
So, Ray, whose job was it to bring McCravy's bill out of committee? Who's the head of that?
It's in.
Is it Hyatt? David Hyatt? Is he the who's?
I don't know what committee
I'll
was
have to
done.
get back with you.
Okay, yeah, because that's the. I mean, that's the whole game is because I think that's what you guys have been going through. I think Bannister had promised he was going to bring the PACE bill out of committee. So,
Right.
they don't bring it out of committee. So it's not people voting on it. They stall it there. So it'd be interesting to know that.
And if it gets stalled there, it's not dead. It's not going anywhere.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm only one person, I can only do so much.
Right.
So the more volunteers I can get, I'm gonna give a similar speech on our next meeting. My first meeting as chairman. But, if you or you know someone who's looking to do something meaningful, especially with pro-life, now's a great time to join the pro-life committee. I'm looking for volunteers. I have a list of duties I would like to delegate to help make all this coordination take place. I plan to keep people informed on what's going on at the sidewalk, what's going on with a certain pro-abortionist that causes a lot of trouble. I want to keep up with the news like Medina versus Planned Parenthood, things like this. Educational outreaches, I want to have educational outreach for our county at least monthly. On June 9th, I'm going to I still need to make the reservation, but on June 9th, I plan to give a talk on what exactly does the state law say about abortion and what do the three bills, what are the three bills going to do as far as that goes? And I'll be doing that presentation.
That's a good idea.
Still going to work. Ideas, I have 2 ideas for July I need to decide, but beginning with August, I'll start letting the committee involved in that. And the reason why I'm pushing it back to August is because I want the committee to participate in what the educational outreach is, but I want time to react to the decisions. So basically, I want to set up the first 2 months, but then after that, we'll let the committee get involved and get volunteers and do bigger and better things. I have some ideas on dealing with the clinic that we have that I'll be working on. Already talked about reaching out to different people. I'm reaching out both separately and politically to all the different counties. And let's see, I think that.
And tell us about your meeting, when I know you guys scheduled it, right?
I plan to do that today.
Okay.
I plan to schedule it I want to have it on the 22nd of this month. Will be the first meeting, pro-life committee, where I'm in charge. But the 22nd at 6:30. And I plan to reserve that before I leave.
And it's going to be here in person, and I believe it's going to be on Zoom as well for people that if you cannot make it, but you have the time to tune in, we will send out emails so you'll get all that information about the in-person meeting and on Zoom.
Very good. Excellent.
Yes, before.
Yeah. Speaking of committees, is there anybody here who lives in the city? In where? The city of Greenville.
City of Greenville.
No one here.
Well,
I do.
Oh, Rebecca. Yes.
Okay. Well, exciting news. We're going to have a new committee. So there's a thought that we're going to push to basically organize more around municipalities to get people more motivated and interested, because people care about things that matter to them, So anyway, I just wanted to find out who was here. You'll hear more about it, but I think it's going to be great because we have 2 candidates. So an interesting story. I went to, you guys know what First Monday is, right? It's the group that does political education at the Poinsett Club. It was actually a really great presentation by the CEO of Greenville Water, talking about the impact of the fires, and what Greenville Water did to manage through the fires. It was really fascinating. He said the big problem with the fires was the hurricane. So it is actually kind of gives you a visual of how all of this stuff works. He said because all of that dry tinder was down from the hurricane. And the impacts of things, it's funny. He said, well, we're going to have to figure out, for those of you who are trout fishermen, they got to figure out how to put a canopy over the springs, because the water is going to be warmer because all of that, green is gone. So it was really a great talk. It's a little bit of a side, but what happened was they gave Matt Alexander, who is the candidate, so he's the Republican candidate that is running for Russell Stahl's seat. So Russell Stahl is that, Democrat, somehow connected to the Peace Center family, money Democrat that's been in that at-large seat for years, but he's vacating that seat. He's actually getting a PhD in urban studies from Clemson. So anyway, so he's going to be a troublemaker for a long time. So it was just, I think he's just taking a hiatus, but he'll be back, I'm expecting. So anyway, so Matt Alexander is the hand-picked guy to run against him. But we also there's a woman named Lillian Brock Fleming who's been in the seat for 44 years.
Wow.
44 years. And in fact, what they did was they sort of, what we've learned from Michael Kilgore is that they redistricted. So there were people who were, Will Brasington was their city council person. They redistricted things to give Lillian a bigger territory. So people who thought they had Will Brasington as a rep, they ended up with this Black woman who basically has been around 44 years, and her whole focus is the Black community. Right? So anyway, so Michael Kilgore actually said he didn't want to run. He came to us months ago and said, "You guys, please find somebody to run for this because I think we can win it." And of course, we couldn't. So anyway, he's our candidate. But at the Monday, they introduced Matt Alexander, but they did not mention that Michael Kilgore is running for this Lillian Brock Fleming seat because the Republicans don't like the fact that he's disrupting their game plan. This is at this Greenville city, blue city, so they're happy with working with the Democrats. But that's what we got to fix. So that's my point about us working locally. We do not need to be giving other counties advice if we've got a city council that's sitting here being run by Democrats. Yeah.
And without mentioning names, but when we talked to Michael Kilgore,
Right.
it was fascinating to learn how many people were, before he filed, begging him not to file. And
Republicans.
Republicans.
Mhm.
And even after he filed, begging him to the point of almost, I don't know, is harassment too harsh of a word, to begging him to drop out.
Yeah.
Republicans telling him to drop out because if he gets elected, it will mess up their little, I don't know what you call it,
Cabal.
cabal, working with the Democrats.
Right, your little purple cabal. Yeah.
And the girl that's running against Matt Alexander, I've met with her before when she ran as a Democrat for, not maybe when she ran, just again, we want to know where people stand on many things.
Right.
Not that we ever would support a Democrat, but you meet with people, you learn. I actually knocked at her door in her house when I was door knocking for Randall Fowler. So she knows who I am. We know who she is. She's not someone you want from a political perspective on the city council.
That's exactly right.
Luckily, Knox White, did he come up with support for Matt Alexander already?
Yeah, I think he has,
Yeah.
because I think Matt used to actually work for Knox.
Yes.
And so that's the rumors that he's sort of
And guess
handpicked.
who's running Matt Alexander campaigns? It's funny, one of our group members met with Matt Alexander and right off the bat said, I can only guess who your political consultant will be. And he was intrigued and said, how would you know that? Guess, go ahead. And that person mentioned, well, isn't it summer flowers? And he could not believe that we could just guess. But yes, Summer ran Knox White's campaign. Whether we like Knox or not, we appreciate his support of Matt Alexander because we believe that that will give him, a support from our people that we may not necessarily align with. What they believe in, but it will help Matt in getting elected. So, and remember one more thing: if we elect at least one of the two, we believe we have a great opportunity to elect both Republicans. If we elect one of them, City of Greenville will be flipped red again.
That's right.
So we will be asking all of you for help.
That's right.
To hit the doors and get.
Even though you live in the county, that's our big problem. Most of as I tell people, conservatives just run away from the cities, but then they become these doom loops, And then, but that stuff spreads. I believe me, it kind of spreads.
And both candidates, they don't have. They're only one Republican, so they don't have the primary elections. Yes, in June there will be only elections in November. But it will be Republican versus Democrat.
Right,
That will be
exactly.
fun
That's
to educate
What are
people.
the two names again and their positions that they're running for?
So it's Matt Alexander and Michael Kilgore, and both of them are running for Greenville City Council positions against Democrats. So there won't be, that's why we're kind of not very hot talking about it yet, because there won't be primaries in June. We will be fighting the Democrats in November elections. That being said, sometime in the summer, you will be hearing more of volunteer opportunities from both campaigns.
Are
And
those
Tina-
positions citywide or are they within like a district?
This is the city council, so
Yeah,
it's on.
are they citywide?
Oh, no, they're did, well,
They're-
Russell Stahl, so Matt Alexander's is at large.
At large.
And whereas, Michael Kilgore's is that's on district, I think it's district, I should remember.
I don't
this.
remember the number,
Yeah,
but
no, it's either dual two, it's a district, particular district. Yeah, and it runs sort of along Augusta Road. It's what they did is they split Augusta Road. So one side of Augusta is in one district, the other's in another. So it's kind of that part. Michael he lives on McCaw, somewhere out there, so. But I was gonna say, Tina, to give you an example of Tina, in Bless Joe Farmer, he's on her like white on rice. He's that, so, because she's ridiculous. So she was talking about, she's one of these biking, walking people. And, so Becky and I both have, mothers in their 90s. Can you imagine what is a person who's in their 90s supposed to do to go to the grocery? Talking about if you only have biking and walking. I mean, it's just utterly ridiculous, but it's a very leftist. There was a group in San Francisco called Critical Mass. Every Friday, they would really, you remember? Yeah, they would basically disrupt the entire city. They just come in, they come in the city. I mean, this is how these people think. It's just absolutely mind-boggling.
And to me, me coming from Europe, I walked and biked my whole life everywhere.
Right.
This is not what Greenville or other cities. I have some friends in other part of the country, not only in South Carolina, that trying to make it, look like we need all these bike lanes. And I'm like, no one will bike anyway. I'm the first one to walk places, and the last thing would cross my mind. It's to walk to the grocery store in Greenville. This is not what the culture is about. I mean, I don't know how to explain it.
When you come here, it's 15 miles.
Yeah,
No,
you take your life in your hands.
Yes.
I mean, really.
There's South Carolina
reality
drivers.
Quick funny story. When I moved here from Poland, I moved to Atlanta, suburbs of Atlanta. I lived out in Alpharetta, and I was not used to drive everywhere. I had a car when I moved here. The family I lived with, I have a car for my own use, so it was wonderful. But I want to be still what I was used to. I decided to go to the grocery store one day. The number of cars that stopped me, asked whether I was okay. But I didn't need help or run out of gas. That was the first, for real. That was the first and last time I did it, because I was uncomfortable just having these strangers offering me a ride.
Oh, they might think you were San Francisco Barbie.
I don't know what they were thinking, but it was not fun.
You ever see San Francisco?
Bob has a question.
Bob does not have a question. Bob has a request.
Oh,
Everybody, please remember, that we have planned May 13th at the Pelham Road Library, which is the Sims Library, from 4 to 6 to have a zone meeting.
Perfect.
We're going to be talking at the zone meeting about trying to find out how people get informed. We're going to talk about come up with constitutional issues maybe, and look for bad bills. What's going on that we've been talking about after the convention, and talking about establishing walk routes, and find 5 new voters per precinct as a goal. That's what we're going to be talking about. Please get your precincts to attend. And
remind people about our meeting, because we're going to have elections. Remember, we have a meeting coming up in June. There's this first meeting is our first organizational meeting, right? So we'll have the elections there. So
June 2nd.
We're not waiting for that. This is May 13th.
No, but you can remind people June 2nd
at your meeting about it.
Come there.
Right, exactly.
So
What time is it? What time?
May 13th, 6 to 8.
What zone?
Zone 7. And if you're wondering who Zone 7 is, Zone 7 is.
There's a list.
There's 14 precincts within Zone 7.
It's precincts around here, kind of to this.
Yeah,
I know my precinct
I
is.
can rattle most of them off. Delaware, Devonshire, Botany Woods, Timberlake,
Wellington,
Avon,
Palmetto,
Wellington.
So it's this area.
That general area.
Everybody should know there's a.
We'll send out email reminder as well. What Yvonne mentioned, our first business meeting for Greenville County Republican Party will be, it's first Monday of June. That's June 2nd at 7 p.m. We are still verifying location, so that's why we are not formally announcing. We want to make sure our location is secure. It will be meeting that will be electing the remaining officers. That will be 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. And we will be electing the standing committees.
Yes.
There are 3.
Yes, which is, so it's ReOrg, which is, and that's 3rd, so it's actually, ReOrg is actually membership and ReOrg.
Right.
You know, so that's that committee, and then the finance or treasury committee.
And rules.
And rules.
And
that's right,
rules. So there will be more committees, obviously, like that, but in our bylaws, we have 3 standing committees that we elect 2 members of that committee, and then they elect a 3rd member. We will send email all about it. If you are interested in running for anything, let us know. I think we are having people that are interested in running already, but again, let us know if you are interested, and we'll send that notice as we secure the location, but it will be 7 p.m. on
Usual
Monday, June 2nd.
Frank had-
Oh, Frank, Legislative
just an
committee.
Announcement,
Yes.
legislative committee meeting this Thursday at 7:00 here, HQ and Zoom.
online.
More information go out if you're on the chat. And
Frank is our new legislative committee chairman.
You know, to also dovetail on municipalities.
Right.
If you have municipal concerns, be part of that committee too. And we want to look at municipalities, local, county, state, and federal legislation.
It's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work. You see all these emails and chats about different bills and stuff. Someone's got to take that horse and ride it.
Right.
If you have an interest, if you have a concern, a passion, come to the meeting and let's start talking and let's start working.
So what did happen with the tax bill, Frank? So that, that was the income tax bill. So
I think it was past one chambers and got stuck in the other.
Everything seems to be on.
But, yeah,
They've closed down there. That's what we need to pick up, see where they're at. If you have a concern, if people have.
Because this is the last day, right?
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday was last day.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So, but if, like you have a concern, if you want to follow that bill, we have someone
Right.
from the bill, and we can have the committee work on it, and see what we can do, get into contacts, learn the rules and how to influence legislation.
Right, that's great.
And so, little to add to that, remember there was a sine die resolution. What sine die resolution means, they end the session. However, whatever bills were included in sine die resolution can be brought up in the time between the next session. And I know Representative Rob Harris, I just saw a screenshot of a vote. He was trying to include one of the pro-life bills in the sine die resolution, and that was voted down. But to let everyone know now, don't think the session is over and we're not doing anything till January. That is where you write the bills, when you submit the bills with your legislators, because pre-filing date happens anywhere in November, December. If we wait till January, you're
It's too
late.
late, yeah.
So this is when you meet
Really?
with the legislators, when you get them information. This is where the work happens. When they go into session in January, that's almost like halfway done.
Right.
Everything gets-
You need to contact your representatives, who's writing these bills, get the numbers of the old bill, who authored those, get in contact with them, start working with them, trying to influence the new bill and see what they're going with. So-
And the legislative committee will help us with prioritizing as a group what we want
Right.
to accomplish next session, what we want to focus on, things like that. So
The shocker to me was the gambling bill, because they were talking about how much support there was in South Carolina for it, even though if you look at Republican platform, it says we don't support it, so that was interesting.
So if there is nothing else, I have a
I'd
Guy.
just like to let everybody know, we are going to primary time.
Yeah!
Last night, between myself and Don, we've done 27 events already.
Wow.
Good,
Meeting with, and if anybody wants to find out anything about him, go to brown4nc.com.
Is he the only one so far, and you expect others?
We've got one other one, but he's trying to run as America First, and then all of a sudden this old stuff's coming out where he supported Christie in 2016.
Right.
Oh, my
And was
God.
a vocal supporter for Tricky Nikki Haley. And
Oh, my gosh.
so there's some people working to get him out of the way.
Okay.
We don't know if anybody else is going to get in, but I told Don, I said, the best thing we can do is we can start running hard
Right.
and make sure you're being seen. We're getting
Right.
extremely good acceptance.
Wonderful.
Good, good.
And if anybody would like to help, if you go to brownsfornc.com, there is a donate button.
Nice, nice. If you don't know, on Monday we have our famous twins' birthday. Not the
yeah.
generals. No,
Okay, I know. The other
It's
twins.
Terry and Jeff's
Jeff's
birthday.
Thank
are
you
on
for
Monday.
reminding us. Yeah.
We call them the twins.
You're
they're
right.
not. And since I'm much younger, I don't know how old they are. Anyway, Jeff's birthday coming up on Monday. As I said, he is at home. He's feeling great. He did start chemo, but he's feeling
That's
really good.
right.
He wanted really to be here, and you may still see him around. As I told people before we got online, but I don't mind sharing here. Yes, the famous Chad Conley that's suing me. Literally, when Jeff was laying in hospital bed on Tuesday, getting chemo for 6 hours, go through him, my attorney was arguing with Chad Conley's attorney why we asked for our trial that was supposed to happen next week to postpone for certain time so Jeff could recover. Outside of the fact that they refused to provide us documents that would make my case that I can defend myself against what I'm, they're suing me for. But yeah, they were literally in front of the judge by phone. My attorney was saying Jeff is literally in a hospital bed getting chemo, and I was with him, of course, for 6 hours straight. So that's a little piece of information of who we're dealing with here. But anyway, he's feeling great, and he will be here with us soon when the doctors allowed, and he's feeling strong. But all is good. This is just a little we have to fix that was delayed in the fall, where he was threatened with 90 days in jail. We got distracted with that, and he didn't go through a surgery that we were planning on doing. Now he has to pay for it with those 4 chemos before he goes into surgery in July. But we are very happy with our medical team. So just
And you're
keep
not having
praying.
to travel to Charleston, so that's
Oh
good.
yes, we
Yeah.
moved our medical team here to Greenville, so we can be here, and he can be recovering with the generals at home. That make things easier. Yes, Daniel.
Speaking of birthdays, I just had a birthday last weekend.
Happy birthday, Daniel.
Are you going to tell how old you are, Dan?
45 years young.
Wow. Good job, Daniel. Hope it was a good
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you.
Anyway, we are adjourning.
Great.
Everyone, alrighty. Until next Friday.
That's right.
More cowbell.
Thank you. Oh, God.
Hey, we like this view. I like it.
You weren't the same.